Abandoned structures hold the secrets of America's past. A stop on Route 66 reveals a forgotten story of this nation's mother road.
Whatever color, whatever race, well, we learn how to treat people with great respect.
A scorched landscape conceals a revolutionary entertainment complex.
All you wanted to do was run up the hill. I mean, for young guys, this was something you'd never seen before.
A pioneering waterside attraction symbolizes the rise of a great city.
This was a bold statement to the world. On the water, on the Atlantic Ocean, in this emerging town called Miami.
And one man's extraordinary feat of architecture speaks to this nation's pioneer spirit.
America's absolutely come here, live free, build your dreams. Anything is possible. I mean, have you ever seen anything like this?
Scattered across the United States are abandoned structures. Forgotten ruins of the past, monuments to a bygone era. Each shines a light on the story of this land and its people. These are the secrets of hidden America. Two hours northeast of Los Angeles, in the Mojave Desert, lies an eye-catching collection of structures that are a slice of American entertainment history.
You've got this one-dimensional, pretty plain desert landscape, and then just this explosion of bright color. It's clearly a hotspot for graffiti artists because it's everywhere.
Graffiti isn't the only reason people visit today. Some people come for a higher adrenaline activity.
We've had a lot of people who've come through and trespassed, all had buggies, much like the ones behind me. And so that kind of is what sparked the idea.
With the Mad Max-style desert surroundings and all the graffiti, feels like the perfect place for it.
A proper racetrack is set to be built among the ruins. A new chapter in this site's storied history.
This site is historic for everybody in the area. Everybody knows what it is.
It was the first of its kind in the whole of America. But the good times didn't last.
Kind of makes you wonder, did something dramatic or sort of terrible happen that closed it? It's a little bit of a mystery.
The site owes its existence to a piece of infrastructure built years before.
It wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the road. I mean, it's the lifeblood of the place.
Interstate 15 cuts right through this area, and it's one of those freeways that has seen a substantial increase in traffic since its opening in the 50s.
You've got these absolutely massive billboards, and you can imagine the name of the park up there in huge letters, enticing passing traffic to stop and come in.
Steve Steiner was a teenager living in Los Angeles when he made his first journey here.
First trip, my buddy said, this is going to be something you've never seen before. He said, it's a long drive, but come on out. This was in 1978, and Billy was driving his little 1963 VW bus that did about 55 miles an hour on the freeway tops. So we left Long Beach, and 2 hours later, here we were, and it was like nothing I've ever seen before. It was a true oasis in the middle of the desert.
This is the Lake Dolores Water Park, the first water park to be built in America.
What you're looking at is a critical piece of American entertainment history.
But back in the early 60s when it first opened, it looked very different.
This area used to be a family campground. It was this Lovely, picture postcard, quaint sort of place.
This was first thing in the park, man-made lake. It's about 27 acres with about 5 acres of land. That's an island.
Dr. Apal is part of a group redeveloping the park.
Built in 1960s by a gentleman named Bob Byers. He named this lake after his wife, Dolores. So everybody driving on this highway, seeing this huge body of water would make them excited and want to come here and build memories with their families.
The lake was a huge hit, but Bob had dreams of something more and began taking the first steps in creating an attraction Americans had never experienced before.
The park's owner was thinking about different ways to make the space more popular, and a few simple slides that would fling people into the lake was just that sort of thing.
So the first slides were made of steel, and they weren't that long, they weren't that high, but they were hugely popular, a fact that was not lost on the owner and kind of got him thinking.
Bob realized this was the way to go, to make the slides the main attraction, and to make them bigger and more extreme.
By the 1970s, Lake Dolores had come to resemble what we now recognize as a water park.
A lazy river, a huge slide that started at a crazy height. These are the hallmarks of the modern water park. And this was the place that kicked that whole trend off.
Steve can vividly recall walking through the turnstiles for the first time.
When I first got here, it was the parking and lots of cars. There was a lot of cars back then. And then it was a mass of people in water. Incredible. It was a Disneyland for water. They had 6 to 8 slides that were about 50 meters long, I would say. And they'd be doing 45 miles an hour, maybe 50, down this hill.
It was kind of the Wild West. They did whatever they wanted, and I cannot be more clear, you would not see this today.
There was one slide that was undoubtedly the star attraction.
It's been a long time, but I believe we're at the site. One of the scariest things in my life was 2 chutes going down this way, 200 feet at 40 miles an hour, standing up.
So this attraction, this epic slide, is actually extremely dangerous.
Your first time down is the nuttiest thing because it's as slick as can be. And of course, I went down this slide, ended up down, caught it with a hand, and then kind of did a belly flop right into the water. Got a lot of laughs.
Yeah, I mean, you might be going around, you might get a little bumped, a little bruised, but you know, you would get up, you would dust yourself off and go again.
Towards the end, one of the greatest feelings of my life, I went down, everyone's looking at me, and I was able to spin all the way down the ride, all the way down to the end, and flipped, and actually made a nice flip. It looked great, never did it again.
Other parks soon took notice of Lake Dolores' success, especially in a well-known city nearby.
Being on the road to Vegas was sort of a blessing and a curse, right? In the beginning, great, brings lots of people. But Vegas being Vegas, you know, they also started building water parks, and they did them bigger, more extravagant. And, you know, in the end, Lake Dolores just couldn't compete with that.
A significant downturn in popularity forced the park to close in the late 80s. But in 1998, a $1 million makeover was complete, and the new park reopened under a fresh name, Rockahula.
It was coming back to life. They brought it back. There were rides there, red, white, and blue American representation rides. People were still starting to come in.
But less than a year after the reopening, tragedy struck.
It didn't pan out the way they had decided. There was an unfortunate incident. Certain rides that were still not regulated properly, they were grandfathered in from the previous era. What we know about the accident is that it was off duty, it was off hours.
So an employee, rumored to be under the influence of alcohol, decided to take a late night ride, went down a slide into an underfilled catch pool and had a pretty disastrous landing, severely injured, ended up being paraplegic.
The lawsuit that followed was just too costly for the park owners. They were forced to file for bankruptcy.
The park changed owners multiple times in the early 2000s, but only really operated intermittently, each owner struggling to keep it alive. The water park finally shut its doors in 2004, and it's never reopened again.
Without the desert groundwater being pumped to the surface, the lake slowly dried up. But the water park's abandonment paved the way for a new type of business.
I've been involved with the filming on this property for years, bringing film crews over, doing different commercials, movies.
John Miller runs a film location company specializing in the Mojave Desert region. But recently, trespassers gave him a new idea, a racing track for off-road vehicles.
What we did is we let the market tell us what it wanted from this area. Like, well, hey, if they're already coming here to do this, why don't we just build it for them?
An abandoned space like this in the desert would make a really cool racetrack. I could totally see dune buggy drivers having an amazing time in this incredible landscape.
These are the most popular off-road vehicles sold. The suspension on them allows you to do darn near anything that you want. Kind of allows anybody to go out there and be a racer.
As well as the racetrack, there are also plans for a virtual reality experience, an RV park, and a hotel.
For the first time in decades, the park now looks like it has a bright future.
Dr. Appel's priority, though, is to bring back to life the park's oldest and biggest attraction.
My own personal goal is by 6 months we will have water in this lake, and we will be welcoming everybody to come back here and enjoy it. This is still America's first water park, so we want to preserve that history.
The Lake Dolores Water Park began with one man and his dream to build something Americans had never seen before. Decades later, there's at least one person who remains grateful.
Bob Byers, he went out and just did this for fun for his family and then fun for everybody that came by here. And for someone to do that, it takes a lot of hard effort, a lot of drive. And he put pride into something that was just so amazing. And on behalf of everyone that went here, I really would love to thank him.
On the outskirts of Yellowstone National Park, deep in outlaw country, is a structure that celebrates the supreme freedom of the American West.
Wyoming is a state of natural beauty, mainly known for its vast expanses of wilderness, not for its interesting architecture.
Yet, there is a building here that's hard to ignore.
I've talked to a lot of people throughout the years, and it's an extreme curiosity. Nobody knows what it is, but they'll take every stab in the world to try to decipher it.
Strange-looking buildings often have fairly strange stories attached to them. This is no exception.
It was hand-built by a talented and ambitious man.
He was determined to build something extraordinary for himself and his family. You can see that it's been made with real care and skill.
This is sort of an alternative Western version of the American dream. His unwavering dedication to this building ultimately cost him his life.
In this rugged part of America, embracing the wilderness has a long and celebrated history.
The nearest town, Cody, was named after Buffalo Bill, the legendary hunter and entrepreneur, whose real name was William Frederick Cody.
20 miles west of the town is a structure that matches this wild and dramatic scenery. The Smith Mansion.
When I come driving down the highway and see the mansion up on the hill, you can see 5 miles down, I get excited. I can't wait to be here.
Sunny Larson is a mother of 2 living in Cody. But back when she was a child, the Smith Mansion was her home.
So this is the cold room of the house. It's a room that constantly has air running through here. This room we slept in during the summertime when it was warm. This hammock is what we slept on.
The ground floor was a wooden maze comprising of 6 different shaped rooms.
Okay, so here you are in the hot room. This is the hub of the house where we pretty much did everything. This was our only source of heat, and this was our dining room table. We spent our winters here, and we slept in sleeping bags and rollouts on the floor. We didn't have traditional beds.
Sunny sold the house in 2019 and hasn't been back since.
Coming back to the house now that I don't live here, I no longer own it, it's extremely emotional. It's just something that I'm happy to do, to be able to come back up here and see it.
The house is named in honor of its builder, Sunny's father, Francis Lee Smith.
This place actually speaks to my dad's character. He was what you would consider an old-time mountain man. And he was very eccentric, and you can kind of see that in the whimsical nature of this home.
This was a house that Francis Lee Smith was very passionate about. But actually, what ended up happening is it seemed to take over his life.
Before the project would consume him, he had one simple goal: to single-handedly build a house for his wife and children.
Okay, so my dad wasn't a very big man. He probably was 5'11". And after having the chance to work on this, I really didn't realize what kind of hard work it was. It's almost impossible for one man to do, but he did. So as he would bring the logs in here, he'd pull them down into the bottom part of the cold room using all these handmade pulley systems that he used.
Francis Lee Smith was a man of limited resources, but he knew how to maximize what he could get his hands on.
For instance, he used timber that had been fire damaged in the forest to actually build the base of the building.
He used the wooden floor from a high school gymnasium and other bits of random timber that you'd find around town.
He became laser-focused on the build, a fact his ex-wife, Linda Mills, knows only too well.
He worked in town at his regular job, normal hours, come home, and then he would work at the house, on the house, till like 3 or 4 in the morning. And this was day after day after day.
The marriage ended in divorce, and Francis Lee moved into the then one-story Smith Mansion. This is when Sunny started spending half her childhood here.
We didn't have running water. We were minimal electricity. You know, we had an extension cord that we branched off from. We didn't have an outhouse. We lived wild with the animals. We lived like we were back in the 1800s, but it's something I wouldn't change for the world. I learned a lot. You know, it really made me a strong person.
The divorce proved to be a pivotal moment for the half-built house.
It started out as a family home, and then it took on a life of its own and just started going up.
His one floor became 2 floors, became many floors, became a separate section and another separate section. People didn't quite know what to make of it. You can imagine the questions around the town. What's going on now? Did you see what he did last week?
Above the living quarters on the ground level, 4 more floors were added, but never fully completed.
The second floor, which is right above that rounded roof, is inside the house. I think it was meant to be some kind of a master bedroom when it was finished. Once you get up to the third floor, which has the second smallest staircase, that was going to be all enclosed with windows, just like the bottom floor. A lot of lookout points were going to be in this house. My dad loved to glass the mountains for wildlife. This big staircase takes you up to the fourth floor, and from there, there's ladders that take you up to the crow's nest. You can see clear end of both sides of the valley, a beautiful spot.
This building is an expression of its environment, of a love of the outdoors.
Out here in the wild west of America, one man going against the grain, expressing himself in timber and clever engineering. It's great to see.
I never would have thought it would look like this in a million years. It's beautiful.
Francis Lee was a maverick builder. His design decisions were all off the cuff.
Back in the 70s, when he started building this house, there weren't any rules that you really had to follow. So he ended up just doing everything his own way. Nothing is to code up here.
But Sonny's father's own way was dangerous, and one day he paid the ultimate price.
Unfortunately, my dad never wore any kind of safety equipment. On this northeast corner, he was building on a secondary roof system. He was using a 12x4 piece of plywood to measure with, and it fell and made him slip. He couldn't hang on, and he fell, and that's the end of it. He laid there for 2 days before he was found.
The phrase, "he died doing what he loved," is really quite apt here. He loved building that house.
Despite never being completed, the fact the mansion is still standing proud comes as no surprise to Sonny and Linda.
It's architecturally phenomenal. He was extremely skilled because he had all the math down for this building to support itself in ways that aren't normally done.
I know how this place was constructed, and I know it's going to be here for another 100 years. It might be broken down, pieces might be falling off, but it'll be here. Oh yeah.
For Sonny, this will always be a monument to her father.
This house is my dad, in every sense of the word. It's crazy, bold, it's beautiful.
For others, it echoes the attitude of the country's early settlers.
I think it's a masterpiece. I think this house represents true Old West grit and spirit.
A dilapidated building on a quiet stretch of Route 66 hides an incredible story of compassion during one of America's most troubling times.
Route 66 really is a piece of Americana. It has so many aspects to it, and a lot of it we really don't know, and this abandoned property fulfills a piece of that story.
It's got a pole in front that looks like it might have once held up a big sign, but the sign is gone, the building is boarded up.
This was once a life-saving stop along America's Mother Road.
For some travelers, this place was an important refuge. It was a place of safety in a world that could be particularly hostile and dangerous.
The tension came from the outside world, okay? From having to interact with people who didn't care about me. But when I was here, I was very well protected.
This is one of the sad and dark chapters in American history that we so often ignore because it goes against the ideals of our nation.
But amongst the horrors, there is a heartening tale of a family that went above and beyond.
We need to make sure that we educate the future generations about this wonderful family, fulfilling a need as a safe haven and during a difficult time in history.
The buildings here have sat derelict for decades. But Reverend Alan Threet remembers a far busier time.
When I was a kid, I remember being about 7 or 8 years old, coming out here to the gas pump right here, put gas into the car.
The gas station was opened by Reverend Allen's grandfather, who made sure his business reflected his personal values.
We was always trying to take care of the customer, trying to make people happy, because this was a service station of love.
The Threet story of hospitality began in 1921, during one of America's most disturbing events.
In the woods nearby, you can see the remains of a house that's now kind of collapsed. But once upon a time, this was an important place.
This is the home that my grandfather built to raise his family in.
Ed Threet and Reverend Allen are cousins and have heard tales of how this house became a refuge for people desperately fleeing the nearby city of Tulsa.
What happened in Tulsa should never happen to anybody. You know, it just shouldn't happen. But my grandpa, being the kind of man that he was, just opened his heart and let people come to stay here.
The event that people were escaping from was the Tulsa Race Massacre.
An African-American young man is accused of speaking inappropriately to a white woman, and ultimately those accusations will lead to a raid of a white mob upon the thriving and successful Black community of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
It was absolutely devastating. In the end, something like 35 square blocks of the city were burned to the ground. The initial estimates were that about 36 people were killed in the riots, but later it emerged that the number might have been as high as 300.
These are stories that I've heard where our property, people were able to come and stay here and rest until they were able to find additional means to take care of themselves.
At the time, the Tulsa Race Massacre was underreported. The atrocities went largely unpunished, and simple parts of life for African Americans remained tough. Travel was one of them.
Traveling during the Jim Crow era for a Black person was a very difficult experience. There's much more than what meets the eye. It's a complex situation that is filled with all kinds of dangers, from entering a building, from needing to get gas, more importantly, trying to go to the bathroom.
Reverend Allen and Ed's grandfather recognized this sad state of affairs and opened the Threet filling station in 1922. When the road here became part of Route 66 5 years later, it was said to be the only Black-owned service station on the whole 2,448-mile highway.
This Black-owned filling station was critical to the success of African Americans that traveled along the Mother Road. Imagine not being able to get gas at a white station, but if you came to this filling station, you were home. You could get gas and keep on motoring along.
As word spread of this unique gas station, people began stopping here for more than just gas.
There was a table here. People could sit around the table. Generally, they were playing dominoes or cards or something to that nature. And here there were booths and stuff like that. In this area over here, well, you can see where food will be passed through from the kitchen to different customers.
Anyone that is an African American over a certain age can instantly identify with the knotty pine that used to be in their family's club room, in their basement, part of Black America that makes you just sit back and smile and reminisce about the good old days.
At weekends in the summer, it was in the field behind the gas station where eyes were drawn.
This service station, they had what you call the Negro Baseball League. We had cars lined up all the way down the road about two or 3 miles.
Backstop was here, first, second, third base. We had bleachers along the side here. People came here to relax and enjoy themselves.
But this service station wasn't just a welcome stop for Black motorists, but a potentially life-saving one too.
Just a bit down the road was the town of Luther, which was a sundown town.
There were literally signs that would say Black people had to be out of town by sundown or else. And at a time when lynching was still prevalent in this country, the or else was serious. That was a real threat.
Next door to the gas station, the Threets offered an alternative nighttime experience.
The Threet enterprise became a gathering place for people in the community. They could come out on the weekends for barbecue and dances.
There was a jukebox in the corner up there. There was always music being played. Pretty much the floor in the middle was a dance floor.
The bar was called the Brown Bomber and was run by Ed's father.
I enjoyed every second that I was in this place. People knew who I was. They knew my dad ran this place, so there was a certain amount of respect that I got. My brother and I, every Friday and Saturday, we would barbecue ribs. That was sort of like our job. It was such a tremendous atmosphere, being around older people. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed it immensely growing up here. Uncle Euless, he passed away in December 1956. She never came back up here again. That's when she had her bedroom downstairs. She ran the business, she kept it up and going. She did all of that while she was still a school teacher.
At the end of the 50s, traffic began to be diverted away from historic Route 66 to the new interstate highway. The Threet filling station was a vital sanctuary to African Americans throughout the middle of the 20th century, as the road to racial equality progressed painfully slow, and that journey is still ongoing.
10 years ago, I was the mayor of Luther, and I had a citizen tell me, "Don't let dark catch you in town." So you would like to think that things have changed. They haven't changed that much. They haven't.
We definitely are not at the finish line yet. There's definitely some good distance to travel, and if I could travel, I would travel with Threet family filling station folk, because historically, that family has embodied the right spirit that we need to move forward.
In Florida's so-called Magic City is a venue that helped announce its arrival as one of the country's newest vacation hotspots.
We are in South Florida at the mouth of the Miami River, and there's no more beautiful location.
Miami Beach is famous. Everything is about water, the sea, and the sun down here.
Right under the nose of Miami's residents lies a long-forgotten structure.
This is definitely a piece of statement architecture. It has a really strong, distinctive silhouette.
There are a lot of seats and it just opens out into water. So you gotta think, this is a place where sports are happening on the water.
Ultimately, this place would prove to be more than a water sports venue.
Events you would not expect took place here.
The biggest surprise, though, would arrive 20 years after a disaster shut it down.
The assumption was that, oh my gosh, she's gone. She wasn't gone. Strong lady, strong lady.
In the early 60s, the city of Miami wanted to show the world it was on the rise. They invested in large malls, a new football team, and here on this small downtown island, the Miami Marine Stadium.
Miami Marine Stadium was the first purpose-built powerboat stadium ever built in the United States.
Commissioned in 1962, the stadium played a key part in giving Miami its iconic image. Longtime Miami resident Bill Talbert spent many afternoons here watching the action unfold.
I can remember sitting in those stands. The powerboats were just so incredibly exciting. There's 6,566 seats here, and there's not a bad seat.
The task to design this stadium was handed to a 28-year-old immigrant from Cuba called Hilario Candela. One of his first decisions was to pick a building material tough enough to withstand the salty sea air.
This stadium is still considered a modernist icon because it's made entirely from poured concrete. And at the time, it was the largest structure of cantilevered concrete in the world.
But construction of the stadium was not the only challenge. A track for the boats to race on was also needed.
They created a U-shaped basin that allowed boats to turn 180 degrees at high speeds. Some boats could go as fast as 100 miles an hour.
The dredging of this basin alone cost the same amount as building the entire stadium.
After more than a year in the making, on December 27, 1963, the stadium officially opened, and it put Miami firmly on the map.
When this was opened in '63, this was a sleepy little southern town. This was a bold statement to the world. On the water, on the Atlantic Ocean, in this emerging town called Miami, that, you know, we're a big-time town.
Spectators were fully immersed in the atmosphere, thanks to the stadium's design.
With this closed-in roof, the sound went up, around, and down. It was loud, 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 and exciting. It got you out of your seats.
If you were sitting close enough, you might get sprayed by the boats as they went zooming by.
But on the very first day, a tragic turn of events risked the future of the venue before it had even begun.
Unfortunately, on the opening day, one of the racers, James Tapp, lost his life in a crash.
In a practice run, one of Tapp's engines stalled, flipping the boat over and proving fatal for the driver. It was a painful reminder of how dangerous the sport can be.
Despite the tragedy, the stadium continued to be a success. People were thrilled by high-speed boat races.
Over the next decade, Miami boomed. Tourists flooded to the city, with the stadium playing its part.
Miami was the center of boat racing in the United States and hosted many different types.
But the stadium wasn't just about racing.
Miami Marine Stadium hosted pageants, concerts, bands, religious events. Patrons would pull their boats up out on the water and anchor nearby to watch whatever was going on.
If you have like a football stadium or a tennis stadium, The field is the stage there. But here there is no field. The field is the water. So stages were brought in.
Bill was one of the many fans lucky enough to enjoy some of the memorable concerts held here.
It's one of the unique things you can do is see a concert on your boat, getting here at noon and tying up boats 4 or 5 across. You know, I remember cooking lobsters and people were swimming in the water. Man, was that fun.
In 1972, a different kind of event drew eyes from across the whole country to the stadium. Richard Nixon was on the campaign trail for re-election as president.
President Richard Nixon held his youth rally at this stadium. The rally filled with Nixon supporters as they chanted, "4 more years."
The stadium was a symbol of Miami's growth as a city, but it became a victim of its own success.
As powerboat engines became bigger and stronger, powerboat racing moved into the wide open sea.
Mother Nature, though, would deal the final blow to the stadium.
Hurricane Andrew was August 24th, 1992. Remember, you would always talk about the big one? On that Saturday, it was coming straight in. I said, this is the big one. It's scary, and you don't know where it's gonna hit.
Miami avoided a direct hit, but it was suspected that the stadium sustained some damage during the event, and it was declared unsafe for the public.
Post-hurricane, the city had other priorities and the stadium fell into disrepair. But the original damage assessment didn't sit right with some.
The assumption was for years that it's structurally unsound. And somebody, maybe the original architect, said, how does anybody know that?
Incredibly, after 20 years of closure, the original assessment was proven wrong.
The study was done, and it's fairly structurally sound. And that's what saved her. And in 2018, this was put on the National Register of Historic Places. It can never be torn down. And you can see, look at this. It looks like it'll last for 100 years.
A restoration effort is now underway, and there is hope these seats will one day be full again. The Miami Marine Stadium symbolizes a time when the city announced itself as an entertainment destination to be reckoned with.
It's part of our history. It's unique. Distinguishes Miami from all the competition. Nobody has this.